Somewhere Better by I_am_Ellie on AO3. Episode 73. Chapter 19. All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray. Shouta was staring up at the ceiling of the apartment, listlessly. Izuku's breathing slowed beside him, cheeks squished up against his arm. It was nice, just listening to the child breathe sometimes, especially after what happened on the dock, when the child was very nearly stopped breathing forever. Those moments when the child's chest was so still and lips were tinged blue would haunt Shouta until his dying breath. There was a jingle of keys from the other side of the door before Hizashi walked in. His long blonde hair was pulled back into a loose knot on the back of his head, strands sticking up there, as if they'd been electrocuted. His eyes were heavy and red-rimmed, with lack of sleep, and he yawned heavily as he slumped across the foyer, kicking off his boots and dropping his jacket onto the ground next to them. When he saw Shouta and Izuku on the couch, he leaped into the air and clapped a hand to his chest. "God, Shouta!" he gasped, doubling over. Izuku stifled a bit, and Shouta pressed a finger to his lips, in a gentle and hoped proper display of how much he wanted his fiancée to shut up. "What are you doing so late? He glanced down at his watch. He wheezed as if the air had been punched from his chest. 2 a.m. I hate everything. I hope not. That would make our wedding a bit awkward. This is my laughing face. I'm laughing right now. I find you hysterical. You should have become a comedian instead of a pro hero. Pro hero pays a bit better. Not enough. What are you doing up so late? Hizashi asked again. Watching Disney movies. Izuku fell asleep on me. Wanted to see you before you go to bed. He had patrol first thing in the morning, and he knew he wouldn't have any time to just talk to Hizashi before his shift started. Are you okay, Sho? He asked, sitting down on the couch next to him. Not that kind of conversation. Yes, I'm fine. You say that a lot, Shouta. Hizashi noted. Because it's true. Every time he and Hizashi spoke lately, it was the same thing. Are you alright, Shouta? Are you okay, Shouta? Do you want to talk about it, Shouta? Is it? How many times do you want me to say it? Izuku whimpered in his sleep, stretching out on the couch before falling still again. Hizashi and Shouta let out a heavy sigh of relief, in perfect unison. Until I believe it, and until you mean it, Hizashi whispered hoarsely. His eyes looked a bit shiny, and they weren't red-rimmed from lack of sleep anymore. Now that Shouta thought about it, there was a chance Hizashi didn't look so exhausted because of how much time he spent at work. He did that. He put dark circles under Hisashi's eyes, making his shoulders look weighed down as if he's carrying the weight of the universe. And at last, in his own right. He was a horrible person. He grimaced. Even when I'm having a big realization about my fiancé, I always find a way to make it about myself, he thought desperately. What the fuck is wrong with me? Wait, no, I'm doing it again. He couldn't do this anymore. Wait, shit! Hizashi couldn't do this anymore. Hizashi knew him better than Shouta knew himself. He'd known him since he was a pimply 14-year-old skinny head who'd just been transferred into the hero course. And if Hizashi said he didn't think Shouta was okay, maybe he wasn't. And maybe that realization scared him a bit more than he cared to admit. Maybe he could tell Hizashi everything. Or he could give Hizashi an inch, enough to placate him, and then shut the entire operation down. Wait a while, go to bed, continue on like it never happened. Hizashi would be happy in the knowledge that Shouta had opened up, just a little, and then what? It was October. They were getting married in a month. His chest hurt, his eyes were burning, and not the type of burn that came from using his quirk. He wasn't doing this. Shit. I'm tired, Shouta said evenly. You're tired. Izuku needs to be tucked in. Things he knew. We should go to bed, and we should get Izuku to bed. Things he could do. And then what? Then what? I don't want to talk about this, Shouta finally said. I will. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe in the morning, but not right now. Boundaries. He should make a rule book. Rule number 1. No big, life-altering, tear-jerking conversations after 10 p.m. Hizashi nodded, face carefully blank, like he had taken a cloth and erased any trace of emotions. Anything Shouta could have possibly used to piece together what Hizashi was thinking. Hizashi carried Izuku to bed, tucking him in. Shouta turned the boy's nightlight on, grabbed a dirty shirt off the floor to put in a hamper literally right next to it. Oh my god, Izuku. They went to bed. Hizashi took off his hearing aids. Shouta shed his knee brace, because it was hell finding a comfortable position to sleep in with the thing on. They got into bed. Hizashi faced the wall, faced away from Shouta, and Shouta faced the opposite direction. His back was cold. He woke up 2 hours later, eyes achy and puffy, knees aching with vengeance. It hurt with all the intensity of a particularly bad migraine, centering right under his kneecap and not going away anytime soon on its own. He sat from bed slowly, staring up at the careful position, all his weight on one foot, none of the weight on the other. The walk to the kitchen was torturous, and his ears had a faint buzzing by the time he finally reached the medicine cabinet. There was a little orange bottle of pills in the cabinet that he was supposed to use sparingly, in case of flare-ups. As soon as he relieved his prize, his knee buckled and gave out from under him. He fell to the floor with a quiet thud, leaning heavily against the counter, as a sheen of sweat collected on his brow. The pain was sharp, like knives sticking into bone, and the only time he could ever remember the joint hurting too horribly was the night it had been broken over a year ago. His tongue was heavy in his mouth. His fingers were rubbery. The faint light above the stone was too bright. It was all so much. Too much. He couldn't get the cap off. Couldn't get the cap off the stupid fucking bottle of pills. The only thing that could ever offer him relief in this endless steam of pure fucking torture. He felt like crying. And that was just as bad because he knew it would hurt so much. He was going to die here, on the kitchen floor. Well, that was a bit of an exaggeration. Perhaps pass out? That would be a relief. His eyes burned. There was a heavy feeling in his chest, climbing up his throat, and the sob escaped his lip, unbidden, hot stream of tears trailing down his face. They burned. But the burning in his chest, in his knee, overtook it all. There was another sob, raw and throat-cracking. And just like that, he couldn't stop. His shoulders shook. His throat ached. He fell onto his side, hands covering his face. Pained knee stretching out and the other one curled up. Cried on the floor like a baby. Choked on air. There were footsteps from the hallway. And the only thing he noticed about them was that they were far too heavy to be Izuku's. He wasn't sure whether to be grateful for that or not. Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. Hizashi dropped to his knee, hand hovering over Shouta's shoulder, uncertain. Hey, it's okay. Are you okay? Those stupid fucking words. He felt like wailing, and he did, trying to choke back the sound halfway through, because no, he was an adult. He was a parent. He was not going to cry. Even so, he couldn't stop. What is it? What's hurting? Hizashi asked. Can I touch you? Will that make this better or worse? Shouta found himself nodding. Okay, it's okay. There was a hand on his shoulder now, right where the shoulder met his neck, and a hand through his hair. And even if it made his skin crawl to have someone touching his hair, he didn't push the hand away. Hizashi took his hand out of Shouta's hair and grabbed the bottle of pills from where they landed on the floor. Is this what you need? Is your knee hurting? Can you nod for me? Come on, honey, is it your knee? Shouta nodded, and Hizashi took a single pill from the bottle. He was really only supposed to take half a pill, but at this point, he was in too much pain to care. He took the pill, chewed it between his teeth because that usually made it take effect faster. And the fentanyl was harsh and bitter on his tongue. Hizashi laid next to him on the cold kitchen floor, an arm under his head, and the other thrown across his waist, gripping him tightly, and humming under his breath. The cats were nearby, close enough that he could hear their loud purrs. The pill took 15 minutes to take effect. 15 minutes before the tears stopped. The pain in his knee went from a violent burn to a dull throb. 15 minutes until his shoulders finally relaxed from their bunched position. And 15 minutes until a pleasant fog settled over his senses. He buried his face in Hisashi's shirt, and thought the floor was freezing and his back was sure to make him regret it later. He was the most comfortable he had been all night. His hair was plastered to his forehead with sweat, but Hizashi still pressed a kiss to his temple, and when he unbid his face, there was another press to his cheek and the corner of his mouth. He lifted his head up slightly, and there was another kiss, quick and chaste, and with no other purpose behind it except to be a kiss, to his chapped lips. "You okay?" His head hit Hisashi's shoulder with a thump. "No, I don't think so." The rest of the night was spent as silence. The minutes melted together, and sluggish. Shota's head covered in a thick veil of medicated relief. Hizashi fell back asleep at some point. Right there was Shouta on the kitchen floor. But Shouta never joined him. His eyes stayed open, staring at the wall as the light slowly filtered in once the morning sun touched the earth. Izuku woke up and giggled when he saw them laying on the floor, but didn't say anything, just brought them each a packet of Pop-Tarts, and packed himself in front of the television for cartoons. His head was dull, even after the medication wore off. Dull and gray. So very, very gray, that he wasn't sure he'd ever be able to crawl himself up and out. The worst thing was, he wasn't sure he wanted to put in the effort to try. We can tell that in this chapter, clearly Shota's in a lot of pain, and clearly it is getting to him, and oh fuck. I know how hard it is to deal with mental health, and I know something that's always in my mind with mental health is how it affects, like how me and my actions affect everybody else. Again, that's people-pleasing tendencies right there. And I know a lot of the times when I'm feeling really, really down and I don't want to wake up, I don't want to get up from bed, I don't even want to watch my favorite shows or do any of my favorite things. All I want to do is just lay down and cry, or just lay down and stare at the fucking ceiling, or just read some AO3 to have even a momentarily, moment of relief, even if it's not happiness, even if it's not, even if I read the most angsty fic, at least I'm feeling something, or reading the most fluffy fic and feeling at least a little bit happy, in those moments of, pure depression, right? When I don't want to text anybody or talk to anybody, I still do. I still try, right? And sometimes it's hard. It's hard. Especially in those periods, I tend to ghost people who do not text me first. Because sometimes the hardest part of talking with people is reaching out first. And in my regular, totally okay mindset that I am right now, I could very much reach out to people. I can do that. Right? I understand how hard it is to reach out to people first, and I gladly do that. But when I'm having a rough time, when I'm going through a couple weeks of just absolute depression, I guess, and just having a really bad mental state, doing that can be hard. So I understand Shota's whole thing of wanting to avoid the topic at hand. Not wanting to talk about it, because talking about it is admitting that there's a problem. And sometimes we know what's going to happen afterwards, and we don't want to face that. We avoid it, because we want to try to avoid it as long as possible. And this was all super bad. This was all super horrible. Shouta was in a lot of pain. But this was not what I was referring to in yesterday's, or your guys' yesterday's. Today is still the 15th. I'm still trapped here. Help me. It's not what I was talking about. And, the next chapter, chapter 20, and we're one chapter away, and I'm scared because I'm gonna sob because if it's... Okay. Chapter 20. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Fuck. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord servers and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.